A bloody action film with heart. Okay, so last night, I finally got around to watching Extraction. Now, I had done a reaction and review to this couple weeks ago or so. No, don't do that. And I liked what I saw when I did that at the time. And I remember thinking that this was going to be kind of yes, it's action and it's bloody and all this gore and violence, which there was plenty of that. But I also felt like there was going to be this underlying sad tone to it based on the character that Chris Hemsworth played. His name is Tyler Rake. And there was that. And they kind of hinted at that anyway in the trailer. You get the sense that he has lost his child. And so he's still very much grieving the loss of his kid. And so he forms a bond with this young child. Well, he's a teenager, like young, mid-ish teenager. He forms a bond with this kid that he is tasked with going into this place. I think it's India, maybe, something like that. Whatever, someplace over there that he had to go in, and he had to rescue this kid. This child is the son of a drug lord who is currently in prison, and a rival drug lord has him kidnapped. And so there's this race on the part of Chris Hemsworth, his character. He has to go in and rescue this child and then get the kid out of the area in a certain amount of time. And then stuff goes wrong, and basically the whole city gets put on lockdown, and everybody under the sun is coming after him. And at some point, he faces this crossroads where, he would be better off just leaving the kid to die or killing him and then just getting out of town. Well, obviously, that's not something his character is going to do. This is the drug lord that had the child kidnapped. So much of the movie is full of just like nonstop chases, fights, just bloody, raw, gritty, just very intense action stuff. The choreography in here, excuse me while I get her off the arm of my chair. The choreography in here was absolutely amazing. The fight choreography, the stunt choreography, all of that. This was a very well-paced film. It was just under 2 hours long. Probably about 90 minutes of that was a bunch of action, all this action. The downtime that was in here felt appropriately timed. It didn't feel like it was anything that was forced. By the time it happened, you felt like, need a bit of a breather, like if it had been complete 2 hours worth of this just nonstop stuff, kind of like, almost like, John Wick has a little bit of downtime, but John Wick is mostly crazy, intense action and violence and all that stuff. But the way this was paced and the downtime when it happened, it felt like, okay, this was a much needed break that you, the audience, this is the kid's father, that you, the audience, really is due for because of all the intense stuff that is happening. And it's pretty intense, pretty gory. I did see that there were some complaints in some reviews about it, complaining about the violence and the gore. And I don't really get why this would be an issue for some of the critics that were complaining. I mean, movies like John Wick, which is just full of absolutely over the top, fighting and violence and killing and all these insane ways to kill people, like with a book in the library. And that was nasty. And yet John Wick consistently gets pretty high reviews with the official critics. This one, it didn't completely tank or anything, but I think its reviews are more like in the 60s, something like that. The audience score gave it a little bit higher, like maybe in 70 or something like that. Which I have to say, I feel like even 70 is a bit too low for this particular movie. It has a lot of, when I say it, it has heart. There are some pretty surprisingly touching moments in here that revolve around his character and the child's character. Ovi is his name. Very touching and just really just sad, the story of Chris Hemsworth's son and how he's dealing with the sadness of that. He is a character that does not care if he lives or dies, absolutely doesn't care. Of course, obviously, in order to protect this kid and get this kid out of the city, he has to try to keep himself alive in order to succeed at this mission, because if he doesn't, then the kid will die. And he doesn't want that to happen, obviously. So anyway, it was just really intense. And, there was, I picked up on something that I thought was probably going to happen in the trailer. And I did mention it in my reaction and review video for this. And I'll say that maybe it happened that way, but who knows, because little minor spoiler alert, the ending is a tad open-ended. Now, I've mentioned before that I'm not a fan of open-ended movies. I don't really like that too much, but sometimes they work. And in this case, I really feel like it does work. So, I don't know, maybe you guys would disagree with me or whatever, but I personally like the way it was handled. I felt like it was appropriate and it seemed to fit the situation. And it wasn't anything that you really have to ruminate on for hours to try to figure out the deal. It's nothing like that. But I will say this, pay attention to the very last frame in the film. It happens just like that. It's real quick. But I have to say it wasn't a huge surprise or anything, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you get to it. But anyway, I really highly recommend this movie, especially if you like action films. Something that I found out about this, it was last night. I was reading up on how they made this and found out that the director of this movie, gosh, I can't remember his name. Shoot. Anyway, he is actually the stunt double for Chris Evans' Captain America. And he's also a stunt coordinator for different films. He's been stunt coordinator on, and this was his first directorial debut. And I think he did an absolutely phenomenal job, you guys. I mean, it was just, you would never know that this was his first movie. But as a stunt coordinator, someone who's in this industry and he knows how to make something flow very well as far as stunts go and like action choreography and stuff like that, it's not like he was a complete novice at this, and it shows. And yet at the same time, he has a good feel for helping you to identify with characters and really feel for them. Like from the beginning, you kind of felt like you're a bit connected to these characters, even characters that don't have a huge amount of screen time. You still feel like they're they're written in such a way that it's just pretty solid. You know what I mean? Like you like, especially this girl. I really liked her character. She's not in here a ton, but when she's in here, she does a great job, and you feel like her character feels really solid. You feel like the chemistry between her character and Chris Hemsworth character is real. Like they obviously have a history, not necessarily a romantic history, but they have a history. Like they work together, but they care for each other. You know what I mean? And anyway, Chris Hemsworth's character is a mercenary, if that wasn't clear by now. He's not like somebody who works for like a government entity or anything like that. He's basically this drug lord wants his son found and rescued, and so he's a dude for hire, so he goes in there and does it. But the acting in here, pretty much from everybody, was so well done, especially Chris Hemsworth. If there was any doubt ever that he was a pretty solid dramatic actor, those doubts should be completely eradicated by now. He did so good, and some of his serious scenes were quite touching, and you just really empathize with the guy because of the extreme sense of sadness that he's still dealing with, and it's obvious from the beginning that you see him, and it shows little flashbacks of his son, and it just torments him. It tears him up, and you find out why it tears him up, and it's not necessarily just the loss of his boy. It's something else, which I'm not going to say. I mean, it's not like it's a huge, game changer, but you understand even more why his pain is so raw. And just, as a parent and putting myself in his situation, I can identify with what that must feel like. I've never lost a child, thank God, but I get his feeling. I think any parent probably does. And it's sad because the son doesn't have this child that he's trying to rescue doesn't have a good relationship with his real biological father. And through the course of the film, these two form a bond, and it's very special and it's sweet. And it's parts of it are a little comedic, when they're trying to escape, and there's all this intense stuff going on, and people running here, and people coming after them there, and trucks ramming into people, and explosions, and a little bit comedic. And this kid who plays Ovi is so talented. I mean, he's like such a contrast to all the ugliness around him, despite where he comes from, who his father is, and like how he's been raised. He's like this little light of sweetness, just this purity. And it's just so sad to watch him as he tries to navigate this world he's in. And he really has just, it's just touching, you guys. I felt so sorry for this poor kid. And as the movie goes on, you feel more and more sorry for him because you start to see more about him. He talks a little bit more about his life and his relationship with his father. And it's just, to me, it was just, I want to say surprisingly heart-wrenching, but at the same time, I kind of felt like it was going to be that way when I saw the trailer. I don't know. So it didn't really take me off guard or anything like that. But it just really made me appreciate this film a lot. And I've had it on the brain ever since I saw it yesterday, and I'll probably end up rewatching it again at some point. But I highly encourage you guys to check this out. It's on Netflix. It's well worth your time. Especially if you like action type films, military type, I think you'll really dig this. And if you like that with an underpinning of something more dramatic and serious, I think you'll appreciate it even more. There are no pictures of David Harbour in here. I couldn't find a picture of him within a scene in the movie to show up here, but he's in here. And there's something that happens in here. Minor spoiler alert. There's something that happens in here. Now, you know what? I'm not going to say it because it's more than a minor spoiler alert. However, if you've seen enough action films, it really shouldn't surprise you, this little thing that happens with his character. But, okay, I'll try to word it in such a way that I don't give stuff away. So David Harbour's character, he had worked with Chris Hemsworth before, like they knew each other. He was indebted to Chris Hemsworth's character. Chris had apparently saved his life at some point in time. And David, but he's like out of the game. Sorry. Anyway, his character is out of the game. He doesn't really do that sort of thing anymore. So let's just say he's out of shape. He's not in the best shape. He's he got a gut, he drinks a lot. Chris Hemsworth's character does too, to mask his pain, but he's still in top physical shape, because he's still actively working. Well, David Harbour's character is not, and he's paunchy, and he's just I don't know. And yet he gets in this fight with someone who's in, great physical shape, and he gets the upper hand on this guy, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. That's just not, that was one of the more unbelievable things in the movie. Maybe it's just I'm stereotyping him because he looks very obviously out of shape. It's like, how in the world could he be getting the upper hand on this person that he's fighting? Really? I don't know. But that was one aspect of it that I found a little bit difficult to swallow. And maybe it just was, part of it was just because my irritation at what was happening at the time. But you'll know it when you see it. I don't want to reveal too much about specifics, because I want you guys to enjoy this as it happens. And yeah, check it out and let me know what you think. You probably seen it already because it's been out for a couple days, but if not, go watch it. It's very good, worth your time. The actors in here were really good. This guy was good too. Everybody was good. Everybody was great. Great job all around. Just, I can't recommend it highly enough, you guys. So, okay, that is my review for Extraction. I think that's it. I'm going to wrap this up and talk to you later. Nos vemos.